All right, welcome back for another deep dive. You guys sent in some seriously interesting stuff about the new Final Destination film. Looks like it's called Final Destination. Bloodlines.
Oh, wow. Bloodlines. That's interesting.
I know, right? I'm already getting chills. We've got excerpts from LSNA, some stuff from Wikipedia, and IMDb too.
Cool.
Oh,
Cool.
and get this, it's been like, what, 14 years since the last Final Destination?
Has it really been that long?
I know, right? Feels like just yesterday. Okay, so let's dive right in.
Okay.
The articles from both LSNA and Wikipedia kind of lay out this plot. So we've got Stephanie. She's a college student,
Okay.
but she's haunted by these, like, really disturbing nightmares. And it turns out they're not just nightmares, they're actually premonitions of her family's deaths.
Ooh, that's dark.
I know.
Ah.
Sounds pretty intense already.
Yeah, it definitely taps into that classic Final Destination thing,
Yeah.
cheating death and then having to face the consequences. We've seen it before. Someone has a premonition, they avoid their fate, but then death, it always finds a way to come back.
To, like, balance the scales or something.
Exactly.
Yeah. But in this one, the premonitions, they all seem to revolve around Stephanie's family.
Interesting. So it's not just her own fate she's messing with.
Right. It just raises the stakes so much higher.
Absolutely. It makes you wonder, does Stephanie even realize the danger she might be in by, like, trying to change what seems to be, well, fate?
Oh, that's such a good point. It's like, is she accidentally putting her whole family at risk
Yeah.
by trying to mess with fate's plan?
Right. And maybe even making things worse. Who knows?
Yeah, it's like setting off this chain reaction. You just don't know what could happen. Speaking of chain reactions,
Yeah.
have you heard about how the directors got this gig?
Oh, wait, are you talking about that story with the Zoom meeting?
Yes.
Yeah.
With New Line Cinema, right?
Yeah, I read about that.
It's crazy. They basically staged a whole mock death scene right there in the meeting.
Like a fake death.
Yeah. Like a little mini Final Destination moment. They used pre-recorded footage, visual effects, the whole shebang.
Bold move.
I know. Talk about a way to make an impression.
It's definitely one way to show you're passionate about the project.
And it worked. I mean, they got the job, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we've got Zach Lipovsky and Adam Stein, the guys who did Freaks.
Oh, yeah, I've heard of that one.
They're directing Final Destination. Bloodlines. But wait, there's more.
Oh, no, what else?
Tony Todd is back
No way.
as William Bloodworth. I was like, what? What does this even mean for this story?
Wow, that's huge. Bloodworth, he's always been such a, like, mysterious character, right?
Yeah.
That creepy mortician.
Yeah.
He always seems to know more than he lets on. Like he's got some inside scoop on Death's plan.
And now we're finally going to get his backstory.
Yeah,
That's got to be important, right?
absolutely. It makes you wonder about his connection to all this, like what's his role in all these deadly premonitions?
Oh, man, I'm already theorizing.
Me too. And then there's the title, right? Bloodlines. It makes you think about family, about inherited destinies. Like maybe there's something in Stephanie's past, her family history, that makes them more susceptible to this whole death plan.
Oh, that's a good point. So maybe Bloodworth's backstory will be like a key to understanding why Stephanie and her family are targeted.
Exactly. It's like all these little pieces are starting to fit together.
And did you see that the film was shot in IMAX?
Whoa, really?
Yeah. I read it on IMDb. Imagine those death scenes in IMAX.
Oh my gosh, I bet it's intense.
I know, I'm going to have to watch it to my fingers.
Me too, probably.
The articles also mention some of the other cast members. We've got Breck Bassinger, Teo Briones, and Richard Harmon.
Cool.
Yeah, it's shaping up to be a pretty interesting cast. Oh, and the tagline on the Allociné poster.
What's it say?
Okay, so it's in French. It says, "Hanté par un cauchemar terrifiant qui revient sans cesse."
Ooh, French.
Yeah, but it basically means haunted by a terrifying nightmare that keeps coming back.
Oh, wow. Talk about setting the mood.
Right. It really emphasizes that psychological element, like it's not just about the physical danger, but the emotional and mental toll these premonitions take on Stephanie.
Yeah, I can't even imagine what that would be like to constantly see these visions of your loved ones dying. It would be like a waking nightmare. Yeah, totally. Like the tagline itself is almost like its own premonition. It's like foreshadowing what Stephanie's going to go through. All that fear and those visions, it just adds a whole other layer of, horror to the story.
It does. And speaking of layers, it seems like the directors are really leaning into that psychological aspect, don't you think?
Oh, yeah, for sure. Lipovsky and Stein, they've talked about wanting to really explore that, like the whole mental and emotional impact of cheating death.
Uh-huh.
It's not just about the big, crazy death scenes. It's about, the dread, the paranoia. knowing that you've messed with fate and now it's coming for you.
Right. It's like they're taking the Final Destination formula, but adding this psychological thriller twist.
Yeah.
I wonder how they'll use IMAX to, like, really amp up that feeling.
Oh, IMAX is going to be huge for that. I
Yeah.
mean, think about it. You're right there in the action. Those close calls, those near-death experiences, you're going to feel every single one. It's going to be intense.
Oh, totally. It makes you wonder if this one will, like, really dig into the why behind all of it, you know? Like, we know that cheating death has consequences, but is there a bigger reason, like a purpose, to this whole deadly game?
Right. Like, what's the point of it all? That's a question that's always been there, kind of lurking in the background of the whole franchise. Maybe Bloodlines will finally give us some answers. Maybe Bloodworth's backstory holds the key.
Maybe. What if he's not just some creepy, ominous figure? What if he's actually, like, I don't know, trying to help Stephanie?
Whoa, that's an interesting thought. Like, maybe he's not a straight-up villain. Maybe he's more of a guide.
Right. Like he's trying to steer her towards some way to break the cycle. But maybe he can't just come right out and say it. Like he's bound by some, I don't know, ancient rules or something.
Yeah, maybe he has to operate in the shadows, give these cryptic warnings. It's like he's trying to tell her how to escape fate, but she has to figure it out on her own.
Oh, that'd be cool.
Yeah.
It'd definitely make him a much more complex character. And it would give his warnings, like, even more weight, right?
Definitely. Like they'd be less about you're doomed and more about here's how you can survive if you're smart enough to understand.
Right. So maybe Bloodlines will totally change how we see Bloodworth. Like, what if he's not the bad guy we thought he was?
That'd be a crazy twist. But it all comes back to that idea of fate versus free will. Can Stephanie actually change her destiny? Or is she stuck in this pre-written story?
Right. And even if she can break free, what happens then? Does it mess up the balance of things?
Whoa. That's kind of scary to think about. Like, maybe sometimes it's better not to know what's coming. True. But wouldn't you want to at least try? I mean, if you knew your fate, wouldn't you fight to change it? Even if it meant risking, well, everything.
That's a tough question. Like, would you just accept it? Or would you risk making things worse just for a chance to survive?
Exactly. It's like, do you play it safe and follow the script? Or do you gamble and maybe rewrite your own ending?
And it seems like that's the core of what Final Destination Bloodlines is exploring, that choice. What would you do?
Yeah. It's going to be interesting to see how it all plays out.
Okay, so before we get too deep into that, I wanted to mention something else. IMDb says that the movie was supposed to start filming in Vancouver back in 2023.
Okay.
But they had to push it back because of the SAG-AFTRA strike.
Yeah, that makes sense. A lot of productions got delayed because of that.
I know, it's a bummer. But it's a good reminder that even movies about, like, fictional disasters can't escape real-life stuff, you know?
Yeah, definitely. Making a movie is a huge undertaking. So many things can happen, so many things can go wrong. And with a franchise like Final Destination, there's a lot of pressure to get it right. The fans have high expectations.
Yeah, for sure. Everyone's waiting to see what they do with it. Speaking of expectations, did you see who's doing the music?
Oh no, who is it?
IMDb says it's Tim Wynn.
Oh, wow. He did the music for The Machinist, right?
Oh, yeah.
And Red State.
Yeah, that's him. And both of those films had such amazing scores, like really atmospheric and creepy. I have a feeling he's going to bring something really special to Final Destination.
Oh, absolutely. Music is so important in horror movies. It sets the tone, builds the suspense. Wynn's really good at creating that feeling of dread and unease. I think he's a perfect choice.
I'm so curious to hear what he comes up with, especially with all the themes we've been talking about. The family stuff, the fate stuff, the psychological stuff. It could be really, really cool.
I know. Music can make or break a horror film. It can take it from just being scary to, like, truly unsettling. The kind of music that gets under your skin and stays with you long after you've seen the movie.
Oh, totally. I have a feeling Wynn's score is going to do just that.
I know. It's wild how music can, like, completely change how a movie feels. I'm already getting chills just thinking about what Tim Wynn might do with those premonition scenes, those eerie sounds.
Oh, for sure. Like, the music can make those moments where you know something bad's coming even more, I don't know, creepy. Like, it's a warning, not just for the characters, but for the audience, too.
It's true. Speaking of warnings, can we talk about Bloodworth again? I keep thinking about how we're finally going to get his backstory. I feel like that's got to be a big deal for the whole Final Destination world.
Yeah, it's huge. It really makes you wonder, like, what are we going to learn about him? Is he, like, actually evil? Does he enjoy all this death and chaos? Or is there, I don't know, maybe something tragic about him? Ooh, that's an interesting thought. Like, what if he's actually trying to help Stephanie, not just be, like, a messenger of doom?
Yeah, what if he's more of a guide? Like, he wants to help her break free, but he can't just tell her how to do it.
Right. Like, what if he's bound by some ancient rules or something, and he can only give these, like, cryptic hints?
Yeah, that'd be cool. Like, he drops these clues, but she has to figure it out for herself and make him way more interesting than just, the creepy mortician guy.
Yeah, totally. And his warnings would have so much more meaning, right?
Yeah.
Feel like he's actually trying to help her survive if she could just understand what he's saying.
Right. Like, he's not saying you're gonna die. He's saying, here's how to not die, but you gotta figure it out.
I love that.
Yeah.
It would totally change how we see him. Maybe he's not the villain after all.
Right. Maybe he's more of a reluctant participant in all this. I don't know. It's exciting to think about. But it all ties back into that whole, fate versus free will thing. Can Stephanie actually change her destiny? Or is she just playing a part that's already been written?
It's such a good question. And even if she can break free, what happens then? Like, does it mess everything up? Does it cause even more chaos?
Exactly. Like, is it better to just accept your fate? Or is it worth risking everything to try to change it?
That's a tough one. Like, sometimes ignorance is bliss, right? Maybe it's better not to know what's coming.
True. But then again, wouldn't you want a fighting chance? Even if the odds are totally against you?
That's the dilemma, isn't it?
Yeah.
And it seems like Final Destination, Bloodlines is really digging into that question.
Yeah. What would you do? I don't know. It's a scary thought.
It is. Okay, so to wrap things up, we've learned a lot about Final Destination. Bloodlines, right? We've got new directors, this deeper look at some of the big themes. Tony Todd is back. And the title itself hints at some, major changes to the Final Destination world.
We've also got some big questions to think about, like, what is fate? Do we have free will? What happens when you try to cheat death? I have a feeling we'll be thinking about these questions long after we see the movie.
That's what makes these deep dives so much fun. We're not just reading about the movie. We're, really analyzing it, thinking about the bigger picture, the philosophy behind it all. It's awesome.
It just goes to show you, even something like a horror movie can make you think about, life and death and the whole human experience. It's pretty cool.
Absolutely. So as we wait for Final Destination, Bloodlines to come out in May 2025,
Yeah.
remember, death may be inevitable, but the choices we make along the way, they can change everything. Until next time.